Welcome to Pillow Time lore, my dear ones. Tell me, what kind of day did you leave behind today? Was it noisy and tangled, full of lists and worries? Or was it quiet, yet somehow heavy, with thoughts you couldn't quite shake off? Whatever it was, you've made it here, and that's all that matters now. Tonight, the world outside can wait. The ticking clocks, the endless tasks, even the thoughts that tug at your heart, set them gently down, as if you're placing a lantern on a windowsill and watching its light flicker softly in the dark. Do you remember those nights when a story could change everything? When the right words could make shadows seem friendly? When a whispered tale could turn your own room into a castle, a forest, or a faraway land? That magic never left, my dear. It's still here, waiting to be heard. Here at Pillow Time Lore, every story is a doorway. Some lead to laughter, some to wonder, and some to a quiet peace that feels like being held close. So, tell me, what will it be tonight? Shall we wander through hidden gardens, uncover forgotten secrets, or simply sit together in silence, letting the words soothe you like a lullaby? Pull the blanket close, rest your head against your pillow, and let me carry you to a place where worries fade, where dreams whisper softly, and where stories feel like home. Welcome to Pillow Time Lore, where the night is gentle and every story is a safe place to rest. In a quiet little town, where every house stood in perfect rows, and every day seemed to repeat the one before, there lived a young girl named Luna. The houses were all painted in the same dull gray, their windows closed tightly as if they were keeping secrets inside, and the streets felt heavy with silence. People walked quickly, speaking only when they had to, and no one ever questioned why things were the way they were. It was a place where rules were followed and routines never broken. Luna, neat and proper, with her tidy dark hair and carefully pressed clothes, did as she was told, but deep inside her heart, she felt a small ache, a yearning she couldn't quite name. She loved her family dearly, yet sometimes she wondered why everything had to be so strict, so quiet, so ordinary. When she looked at the grown-ups around her, always busy and serious, she felt as though they had forgotten how to laugh, how to dream. One chilly evening, as the sky turned shades of pink and gold, Luna wandered a little farther than usual, her feet leading her down the very end of the cobblestone street. And that was when she saw it, a house unlike any other, leaning slightly to one side as though it had grown wild and free, painted in warm, cheerful colors, its windows glowing with golden light, strands of fairy lights twinkling like stars spilling from its roof. Luna froze, her breath caught in her throat, for in that moment the world seemed to shift. This house didn't belong to the strict, silent town she knew. It felt alive, magical even, like it was waiting for someone brave enough to step closer. She crept behind a wooden fence, her heart pounding with curiosity and excitement. And just then, faint giggles drifted through the air. She noticed other children nearby, whispering and pointing at the strange house, and in that warm glow, Luna saw a promise that perhaps there was more to life than quiet rules and gray walls. A hidden world ready to awaken, if only she dared to discover it. Luna woke up every morning with the same soft chime of her alarm, the sound ticking through her small, tidy room like a tiny marching band, reminding her of all the things she had to do. her sheets perfectly folded, her school uniform pressed and waiting, the sunlight creeping through the blinds in straight, serious lines, as if the sun itself knew there was a schedule to follow. She dressed quickly, ate her breakfast without tasting it, and left the house feeling the weight of invisible rules pressing on her shoulders. She walked through the city streets where everything seemed to move in rhythm, people stepping in unison, like dancers in a silent, gray ballet. The buses arrived exactly on time, the trees trimmed in neat lines, even the clouds above seemed to float in perfect order, and Luna often felt a flutter in her chest that told her there must be more to life than this, a quiet yearning she could neither speak nor understand fully. She wanted to see what lay beyond the straight streets and measured lives. Her mother had woven a life for her that was bright in its safety. Every hour accounted for, every task a stepping stone to success. Yet, Luna often found herself staring at the clock, wondering if the ticking was a friend or a cage. She loved her mother dearly, but sometimes felt trapped in the kindness of rules. She remembered the stories her grandmother once told her, about rivers that refused to stay in banks, about birds that chose their own paths, about stars that twinkled in rebellion against the night, and she wished she could be a little like them, brave enough to wander where curiosity called, even if just a tiny step. She felt the pull of invisible doors waiting to be opened. On her walk to school, Luna noticed small things that no one else seemed to see. A butterfly that danced sideways in the wind, a cloud shaped like a dragon curling lazily across the sky, the smell of rain on the pavements, the laughter of a child chasing a paper boat in a puddle. And each small thing made her heart lift, a secret warmth growing inside. She kept these little treasures tucked away, like hidden coins of happiness she might one day spend on adventure. She imagined what it would feel like to run without purpose, to draw without rules, to laugh until her chest ached. The restlessness in her grew like a quiet song, soft but persistent, reminding her that life could be more than neat rows and ticking clocks. Even in her piano lessons, where her fingers danced across the keys with perfection, she felt a longing for notes that refused to follow the sheet, for melodies that sang secrets only she could hear. Her books offered stories, but also whispers of possibility, of lands and lives she could never yet touch. And every night, as the stars blinked in their slow, steady rhythm, Luna's mind wandered to hidden doors and secret gardens, wondering, dreaming, wishing. She knew one day she might find a way to tiptoe past the rules and feel the world with her own heart. One afternoon, Luna noticed a new house at the end of her street. A house that seemed to laugh at the neat rows of gray buildings around it, its walls painted in every color she could name, and some she had never seen. Windows round and crooked like they had been plucked from a dream, chimneys that twisted like corkscrews into the sky, and strange little objects hanging from the roof, spinning and clinking in the wind. The air around it smelled of cinnamon, old paper, and sparks of something she could not name. She watched from her usual hiding spot behind the fence, her heart fluttering with curiosity. Children whispered rumors of a mad inventor who had come to live there, a man who could make clocks fly and robots dance. But Luna did not feel afraid. She felt a pull in her chest, like something had unlocked a door she did not know, existed, a door that might lead her to wonder and secrets every day after school. She found herself walking a little slower past that house, her eyes tracing the glowing windows as if they were little candles calling her name. She thought of all the stories she had read in books, about people who followed maps to hidden treasures, about those who dared to ask questions when everyone else obeyed. She wondered if Mr. Orion had secrets as vast as the skies. Sometimes she swore she could see shadows moving inside, like tiny creatures dancing to music she could not hear. Other times she caught glimpses of sparks of light floating by the curtains, like fireflies with no reason but joy. She wanted to knock, wanted to ask, but her legs froze, as if the rules her mother had taught her were chains wrapped around her ankles. Yet the pull was irresistible. One windy afternoon, Luna crept closer than ever before, hiding behind a tree as she watched Mr. Orion in his garden, tinkering with a contraption that looked like a tiny moon with spinning arms. He hummed softly, and the sound was like the gentle rattle of magic itself. She imagined what it would be like to live without schedules, without clocks, to make your own music and your own colors. The thought made her stomach tingle, a mixture of fear and delight swirling together. She felt as if the universe had whispered a secret just to her, reminding her that life could be something more than neat lines and ticking clocks. She took a quiet breath, wondering if maybe one day she could step over that invisible line, if maybe she could meet the man with stars in his eyes and learn to see the world like he did every night. When she returned home, Luna stared at the house from her window, imagining what strange inventions might hum in the dark, what stories might swirl around its crooked chimneys, and she felt a tiny spark of hope in her chest. The first real spark she had felt in a long time, a spark that whispered softly, saying, "Life is bigger than the rules you follow." And sometimes curiosity is the key to finding it. Luna knew she should not, her mother's voice echoing in her mind, strict and soft at the same time, reminding her of schedules and rules. But she could not resist the pull of Mr. Orion. He was like a spark in the gray of her life, a little flame that promised warmth and wonder. And one afternoon, when the sun was low and golden, she found herself walking up his crooked path, knocking gently on the door that smelled faintly of cinnamon and old paper. And he opened it with a smile that felt like a welcome to an entirely new world, his eyes twinkling with mischief and stories. He told her about small magical places, lands where rivers sang and stones danced, gardens where flowers whispered secrets, and skies that rained stars. Luna listened with wide eyes, imagining herself skipping across clouds, speaking to animals, and finding treasures hidden in unlikely corners. She felt freer than she had ever felt in her tidy, scheduled life, her heart beating a little faster, her mind stretching like a kite in the wind. She realized that stories could be doors too, if you dared to step inside. And each tale made her question why the world she lived in had to be so neat and quiet. After school, she began visiting him secretly, her backpack full of books and curiosity, each visit a tiny rebellion, each conversation a gentle revolution in her mind. They laughed at small things, wondered at bigger ones, and Luna found herself daring to ask questions she had never dared before. Why must life always follow the clock? Why must happiness be measured in tasks? Mr. Orion never scolded. He only asked her to look closely, to notice the hidden songs in everyday moments. And she began to see that rules were not always chains, but sometimes doors could be unlocked with imagination. She started noticing little things at home too, imagining stories in the shadows, listening to the wind as if it carried messages, drawing secret sketches that she hid in her drawer, the spark of curiosity spreading quietly through her world. She realized that friendship could be a kind of magic, that even in a life bound by schedules, small acts of wonder could bloom. And with each visit, each story, each whispered laugh, Luna felt herself growing braver, stronger, more alive, as if the world had just tilted a little, showing her colors she had never seen. One rainy afternoon, when the clouds hung heavy and gray over the city, Mr. Orion leaned close to Luna and whispered about a hidden door, a door that no one else had ever noticed. He guided her through the winding halls of his crooked house, past shelves stacked with ticking clocks, strange jars, and glittering gadgets that hummed softly, and then behind a tall bookshelf that smelled of old wood and forgotten stories. He pressed a tiny brass handle, the door creaking open to reveal a garden bathed in soft, golden light. Luna's eyes widened, her heart thudding with a mixture of fear and delight. She had never seen anything like it. The garden smelled of wildflowers and fresh rain, the colors brighter than any she had imagined. Petals glowed faintly like lanterns, and tiny creatures peeked from behind leaves. Birds chirped with voices that almost sounded like words. A rabbit hopped by and gave her a polite nod. Luna stepped forward cautiously, her shoes sinking slightly into soft, mossy ground. She felt the air vibrate with a quiet magic, the kind that whispered, "There is more to life than you have been told." And she laughed softly, the sound carrying like a bell through the golden light. Every corner of the garden seemed to invite her curiosity. A sparkling fountain gurgled like it was telling secrets. A tree bent its branches low as if it wanted to show her its hidden treasures. She noticed tiny paths winding under bushes and around glowing flowers, and she imagined adventures at every turn. She felt lighter than she had in years, like the weight of rules and schedules had lifted just enough for her to take a breath. Mr. Orion watched her with twinkling eyes, saying softly, "Courage is often just a step through a hidden door," and Luna realized how true it felt. She spent hours exploring, talking quietly to the birds, sketching flowers in her notebook, imagining stories for every animal she saw. The wind carried laughter that was not hers, but made her smile as if it belonged to the garden itself. She felt her imagination stretching, wings unfolding, and she understood for the first time that freedom could live in small spaces, in hidden moments, in choices you dared to make. Each visit made her braver. Each secret path made her heart bolder. She felt alive in a way the structured streets of her city had never allowed. By the time she returned home, the hidden door had closed softly behind her, but its magic lingered, a warmth tucked into her chest, a spark she could carry anywhere, a promise whispered quietly that life was bigger than routines, bigger than rules, and that courage and curiosity could open doors she had never even known existed. One golden evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, Mr. Orion settled into his old rocking chair and began to tell Luna a story, his voice soft and warm, curling around her like a blanket. He spoke of the little prince, a boy who traveled from planet to planet, meeting strange creatures, learning lessons about love, courage, and kindness. Luna listened, her eyes wide and sparkling, imagining distant stars and tiny worlds that were both far away and somehow close to her heart. She felt as if the story was breathing in the room with her, filling the air with possibility. The little prince spoke of small, important things that adults often overlook: the beauty of a single flower, the value of a friendship, the bravery in saying what you feel. Luna felt a strange recognition in her chest, as if the story mirrored the life she lived, where routines and rules had hidden the wonders that truly mattered. She thought of her piano lessons, her perfectly timed days, and wondered why she had never noticed the little joys before. She realized that even a life full of schedules could hold quiet magic if one only dared to see it. As Mr. Orion described the prince's adventures, Luna's imagination stretched like the wings of a bird taking flight. She pictured herself wandering planets, learning lessons in kindness, finding courage in small acts. She felt the thrill of tiny rebellions, like sketching on a page no one else would see, speaking to flowers in secret, or dancing alone in the kitchen without worrying if it was proper. The story whispered to her that adventure was not always in faraway lands. Sometimes it lived in the choices you made, in the moments you thought were ordinary. By the time the tale ended, Luna's mind buzzed with dreams. Her heart full of inspiration, she began imagining ways to color her life differently, tiny acts of bravery and creativity forming like sparks in her chest. She realized that curiosity and courage could bloom even in a world built on rules. She thought, perhaps the little prince was right. The most important things are invisible to the eyes, and maybe it was time to start seeing, feeling, and daring in her own life. As the stars twinkled outside the crooked windows of Mr. Orion's house, Luna felt a quiet promise settle inside her, a promise that the world could be brighter, softer, fuller if she dared to notice, to imagine, to dream, and to step boldly into the unknown. Back home, the air felt heavier than usual, the walls lined with clocks and reminders. Her mother's sharp eyes, noticing the way Luna paused staring out the window, as if the world outside held something she could not name. Her schedule grew tighter, each minute accounted for, lessons and chores piling on one another like bricks in a wall. And Luna felt the weight pressing down on her chest, a quiet longing stirring that refused to be ignored. She remembered the hidden garden, the glowing flowers, the gentle laughter carried by the wind, and a small smile tugged at her lips, a secret warmth that no rule could erase. The city outside seemed colder, gray streets stretching endlessly, people moving like shadows chained to their routines. The air smelled of dust and business, the rhythm of ticking clocks everywhere, making her heart ache for the freedom she had glimpsed. Yet in that darkness, Luna discovered a little spark. She began sneaking small moments of rebellion, drawing tiny sketches of glowing flowers in her notebook, leaving secret notes with whimsical words tucked between the pages of her books. talking quietly to the birds and cats in her garden as if they were old friends. And in those tiny acts, she felt herself breathe again. Each hidden moment became a secret rebellion, a way to color her life in shades no one else could see. She realized that imagination was not just a childish whim, but a quiet courage, a gentle defiance against a world that demanded perfection and order. She thought of Mr. Orion's words about courage and doors waiting to be opened, and she felt emboldened to find her own hidden paths, to let her mind wander where it wanted, even if just for a few stolen minutes each day. Her heart began to fill with possibility, a quiet song humming under her ribs. She imagined flowers blooming in corners no one noticed, laughter spilling into quiet rooms, stories whispered to the wind, the gray world slowly softening around her. She learned that even in a life of schedules, color could exist, that even in shadows of conformity, magic could bloom if you dared to nurture it quietly. Luna felt a strength growing inside her, a secret garden of her own making, and she knew that someday those tiny sparks of wonder could grow into a blaze that might touch the world. One cloudy evening, Luna tiptoed through the quiet streets, her heart thumping like a tiny drum in her chest. She had stayed longer than usual in the garden yesterday, and her mother had noticed a hint of rebellion in her eyes, the warning in her voice still echoing. Yet Luna could not resist the pull of the hidden garden. It was calling her, whispering that courage was a step away. She pressed her fingers to the brass handle and felt a shiver of anticipation as the door creaked open. The wind outside seemed sharper, carrying the scent of rain and damp earth. As if the city itself were watching her, she froze for a heartbeat, listening for footsteps, her chest tight with fear. Yet she remembered the words Mr. Orion had whispered. Courage is often just a step through a hidden door, and she felt herself inch forward, the golden light of the garden spilling over her like a warm blanket, the flowers glowing softly, petals swaying as if to greet her return. The creatures she had grown to know peeked from the underbrush, their eyes curious and welcoming. Every step she took felt heavier than the last, her mind spinning with what-ifs. What if she were caught? What if she disappointed her mother? Yet each fear was met with a spark of excitement, a thrill that reminded her how alive she could feel. The garden seemed to hum with approval, the fountain gurgling like a song of welcome, the wind carrying soft laughter that belonged to no one and everyone at once. She ran her fingers along the mossy stones, feeling the life pulsing quietly beneath her touch, and in that moment, Luna realized that bravery was not the absence of fear, but choosing to step forward even when the heart quivered. She explored every corner, noticing details she had never seen before. Flowers that shimmered like stars, tiny animals with coats glinting in impossible colors, the branches of trees bending gently to make paths for her. She laughed quietly, a sound that felt like freedom itself. Each visit filled her with courage, and she began to imagine ways to bring the magic she felt into her own life outside the garden. A little more color in her thoughts, a little more rebellion in her sketches, a little more daring in her steps. By the time she returned home, Luna felt taller, braver, as if she carried a secret sun in her chest. She knew that each choice she made to embrace curiosity and courage was a small revolution, a promise that her life could be hers. Magic could be found if one only dared to seek it. One bright morning, Luna ran through the streets with a secret spring in her step. She had made a decision the night before that her friends should see the hidden garden, that they too should feel the gentle magic that had been quietly changing her heart. She led them down winding streets, past gray buildings that seemed to frown at the sun, until the crooked house appeared at the end. And when the brass handle turned and the door creaked open, their eyes widened in wonder, their mouths forming tiny O's as the golden light spilled over them like warm honey. Inside, the garden smelled of wildflowers and rain, colors brighter than any they had ever imagined. Flowers glimmered with soft light, leaves swayed like they were dancing to music only the garden could hear. Small creatures peeked from under mossy stones, chirping and chattering as if welcoming the children into their secret world. Luna's friends gasped and laughed, running along paths that twisted and curled like ribbons, painting the air with their joy, and Luna felt a deep warmth in her chest, realizing that magic multiplied when shared. That wonder was even sweeter when it could be seen in someone else's eyes. They explored every nook and cranny, climbing tiny hills, whispering to flowers, sketching the glowing leaves in notebooks, and creating little games that only made sense in the garden. Luna realized that imagination was not just an escape, but a way to change the world. She watched as her friends' laughter seemed to ripple outwards, even beyond the garden. Small magical touches followed them, flowers blooming in unexpected corners, stray birds bringing them little gifts, acts of kindness unfolding quietly in the streets they returned through, and Luna's heart swelled. She understood for the first time that wonder could ripple outward like drops in a pond, touching lives in ways no one could see as the sun dipped low, casting golden streaks through the crooked windows of the garden. Luna sat on a soft patch of grass, watching her friends laugh and play. She felt a quiet truth settle in her chest, that courage and imagination were twin keys to freedom, that the smallest sparks of joy could ignite change, and that the world could be brighter if even one heart dared to dream. The garden had become more than a secret place. It had become a living testament to the power of wonder, laughter, and love shared. And Luna knew that she would carry this magic with her wherever she went. One quiet afternoon, Luna returned home from the hidden garden, her cheeks flushed with excitement and her hands still carrying the scent of flowers and moss. She did not notice her mother standing by the doorway, arms crossed, eyes soft but searching. The quiet house felt heavier suddenly, like the walls themselves were listening. Luna froze for a heartbeat, her heart thumping in a rhythm that matched the garden's gentle hum. She expected scolding, perhaps anger, but her mother only looked at her, hesitant, as if trying to remember what it felt like to be young, to dream, to wander. Her mother finally spoke, her voice soft and trembling slightly, asking why Luna had been sneaking away. Luna swallowed her fear and began to explain, words tumbling out like a river. She spoke of glowing flowers, talking birds, and secret paths. She described the laughter that floated in the wind, the courage that had grown quietly in her chest, and the little ways imagination could touch hearts and bring joy to even the grayest corners. She told her mother that the garden had taught her that life was not only about schedules, about ticking clocks and neat rows, but about wonder, connection, and courage. For a long moment, the room was silent. Luna, watching her mother carefully, noticing a faint shimmer in her eyes, a softness she had not seen in years. Memories flickered in her mother's mind of childhood dreams tucked away, of mornings spent imagining instead of obeying. Slowly, the tension in her shoulders eased. She stepped closer, her hand brushing Luna's hair, and whispered that perhaps structure and imagination could coexist, that rules did not have to cage the heart, that it was possible to dream while still being responsible. Luna felt warmth spread through her chest, a quiet affirmation that her choices mattered, that her courage and curiosity were not wrong. She realized that the garden had not only given her freedom, but had built a bridge to her mother, a bridge that could hold laughter, love, and understanding. They sat together, talking about flowers, stars, and dreams, about how to balance wonder with duty. And Luna felt a confidence bloom, knowing that her heart had room for both magic and responsibility, that she could follow rules, but also follow her own light. As evening fell, the room glowed with a gentle warmth. Mother and daughter sharing a quiet smile, a soft promise of understanding. Luna knew that this moment, small but significant, was a turning point, a reminder that courage and honesty could open hearts, and that love, patience, and imagination could grow side by side. Morning light spilled over the city in a way that felt different, softer and warmer. The gray streets seemed to hum with quiet excitement, and Luna walked through them with a lightness in her step, noticing colors that had never been there before. Walls painted in bright swirls, tiny flowers sprouting between cracks, laughter spilling from doorways like music. She smiled to herself, knowing that the magic of the hidden garden and the courage it had inspired was not just in a secret place anymore. It had begun to ripple outward, touching the hearts of everyone. People moved with a little more spring in their steps, neighbors greeting each other with smiles that had been tucked away, shopkeepers leaving tiny notes of kindness for those who passed, birds singing louder, almost in celebration, and even the sun seemed to linger a little longer in the sky. The city itself felt alive, awake, as if it had remembered how to dream. Luna felt her chest swell with a quiet pride, realizing that imagination and creativity could change the world, that a single spark of courage could set an entire city alight with wonder. She found Mr. Orion in his garden, his eyes twinkling like stars as he watched the small changes bloom in the streets around them. He laughed softly, a sound that seemed to carry the secret of all things magical. And Luna joined him, the two of them sitting among glowing flowers and whispering trees, sharing stories and ideas for new wonders. She understood for the first time that life was not about choosing between responsibility and joy, that both could exist together, that a heart could be brave and disciplined, kind and imaginative, all at once, as the evening sun painted the city in golden hues. Luna wandered through streets she had once thought dull, noticing tiny sparks of magic everywhere, flowers that seemed to nod at her, children laughing as they painted secret murals, a breeze carrying the scent of possibility. She felt a promise settle inside her, a quiet vow that she would always nurture her imagination, always let her curiosity bloom, always dare to dream even when the world seemed gray. She understood that life's true balance was in holding both duty and wonder, and letting each feed the other, with the stars blinking awake above the city. Luna and Mr. Orion looked at the transformed world, a city alive with laughter, color, and kindness, and they smiled, knowing that this change had begun because one girl had dared to dream, and she promised herself quietly that her sense of wonder would live forever, glowing softly, lighting her way, no matter where life led her.